Welcome to our Lenten program, Knowing Our Story, for the fourth Sunday in Lent. This is an online version of the same program that you can attend at Christ Church, Toms River, on Wednesday evenings starting at 6 p.m. We have created this online version for those who are unable to attend in person. You don't have to be a member of this church or live in the area. Everyone is welcome to participate. This year's Lenten program is an opportunity to reflect on the Gospel readings for the upcoming Sunday. This Gospel passage will be read 3 times using 3 different translations. At the end of each reading, you will be asked to pause the video and answer a question. You are invited to use the blog to record your answers and share them with others who are participating in this program. This week, the Gospel passage will be read first by me, Mrs. Catherine Wyzorek, Christ Church, Toms River. The second translation of the Gospel passage will be read by the Reverend Robin Barrow, Deacon, Wells Chapel AME Church, South Toms River. The third translation will be read by Deacon Ted Foley, Christ Episcopal Church, Toms River. This week's reading is taken from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verses 1 through 3, and verses 11b through 32. For context to this reading, please consider that Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem to offer the city one last opportunity to accept the mercies of God, yet he knows only too well the resistance with which this offer will be met. Now let us hear the first reading, and let us listen for what Jesus is offering. Let us listen for what Jesus is offering. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him. And the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So he divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? But here I am dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found,' and they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has got him back safe and sound.' Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' Then the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'" Now please pause the video and reflect on what Jesus is offering in this reading. Enter your thoughts on the blog for this week. Now please pause the video. Now let us hear the second reading and listen for what kind of resistance to Jesus did you hear? What kind of resistance to Jesus did you hear?
Tax collectors and sinners were all crowding around to listen to Jesus. So the Pharisees and teachers of the law of Moses started grumbling. "This man is friendly with sinners. He even eats with them." Then Jesus told them this story. Once a man had 2 sons. The younger son said to his father, "Give me my share of the property." So the father divided his property between his 2 sons. Not long after that, the younger son packed up everything he owned and left for a foreign country where he wasted all his money in wild living. He had spent everything when a bad famine spread through the whole land. Soon he had nothing to eat. He went to work for a man in that country, and the man sent him out to take care of his pigs. He would have been glad to eat with what the pigs were eating, but no one gave him a thing. Finally, he came to his senses and said, "My father's workers have plenty to eat, and here I am starving to death. I will go to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against God in heaven and against you. I am no longer good enough to be called your son. Treat me like one of your workers.' The younger son got up and started back to his father. But when he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt sorry for him. He ran to his son and hugged and kissed him. The son said, 'Father, I have sinned against God in heaven and against you. I am no longer good enough to be called your son.' But his father said to his servants, 'Hurry and bring the best clothes and put them on him. Give him a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet. Get the best calf and prepare it so we can eat and celebrate. This son of mine was dead, but now has come back to life. He was lost and has now been found.' And they began to celebrate. The older son had been out in the field, but when he came near to the house, he heard the music and dancing. So he called one of the servants over and asked, 'What's going on here?' The servant answered, 'Your brother has come home safe and sound, and your father ordered us to kill the best calf.' The older brother got so angry that he would not even go into the house. His father came out and begged him to go in. But he said to his father, 'For years I have worked for you like a slave and have always obeyed you. But you had never even given me a little goat so that I could give a dinner for my friends. This other son of yours wasted your money on prostitutes. And now that he has come home, you ordered the best calf to be killed for a feast.' His father replied, 'My son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we should be glad and celebrate. Your brother was dead, but he is now alive. He was lost and has now been found.'"
Now please pause the video and reflect on what kind of resistance to Jesus you heard in this reading, and enter your thoughts on the blog for this week. Now please pause the video. Now let us hear the third reading and listen for what will you have to learn to risk or to renounce in order to accept what Jesus is offering. What will you have to learn to risk or to renounce in order to accept what Jesus is offering?
By this time, a lot of men and women of doubtful reputation were hanging around Jesus, listening intently. The Pharisees and religion scholars were not pleased, not at all pleased. They growled, "He takes in sinners and eats meals with them, treating them like old friends." Their grumbling triggered this story. There was once a man who had 2 sons. The younger said to his father, "I want right now what's coming to me." So the father divided the property between them. It wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and left for a distant country. There, undisciplined and dissipated, he wasted everything he had. After he had gone through all his money, there was a bad famine throughout the country, and he began to hurt. He signed on with a citizen there who assigned him to his fields to slop the pigs. He was so hungry he would have eaten the corn cobs and the pig slop, but no one would give him any. That brought him to his senses. He said, All those farmhands working for my father sit down to 3 meals a day, and here I am starving to death. I'm going to go back to my father. I'll say to him, Father, I have sinned against God. I have sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son. Take me on as a hired hand. He got right up and went home to his father. When he was still a long way off, his father saw him. His heart pounding, he ran out, embraced and kissed him. The son started his speech. Father, I have sinned against God. I have sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son ever again. But the father wasn't listening. He was calling to his servants, Quick, bring a clean set of clothes and dress him. Put the family ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Then get a grain-fed heifer and roast it. We're going to feast. We're going to have a wonderful time. My son is here, given up for dead and now alive, given up for lost and now found. And they began to have a wonderful time. All this time, his older son was out in the field. When the day's work was done, he came in. As he approached the house, he heard the music and dancing. Calling over one of the houseboys, he asked what was going on, and he told him, Your brother came home. Your father has ordered a feast, barbecued beef, because he has him home safe and sound. The older brother stalked off in an angry sulk and refused to join in. His father came out and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, Look how many years I've stayed here serving you, never giving you one moment of grief. But have you ever thrown a party for me and my friends? Then this son of yours, who has thrown away your money on whores, shows up and goes all out, and you go all out with a feast. His father said, Son, you don't understand. You're with me all the time, and everything that is mine is yours. But this is a wonderful time, and we had to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. He was lost, and he's found.
Now please pause the video and reflect on what you will have to learn to risk or to renounce in order to accept what Jesus is offering in this reading, and enter your thoughts on the blog for this week. Now please pause the video. At the end of this video, you are also invited to make a blog entry in an open discussion of what this reading brings up for you. I hope you enjoyed these reflections and will return to participate in next week's session of the Lenten program, Knowing Our Story. Let us close in prayer.
Father of mercy, when we come to ourselves and acknowledge the poverty of our own alienation from you, your loving arms welcome us home. Reveal your healing love to us, whom you have called by name. As we come to the celebration of your new creation, may we know ourselves reconciled and welcomed into the household of faith through the passion of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.